Michael Graham is in our Washington bureau. He's creative director for MediaDC, publisher of the Washington Examiner, the Weekly Standard, and Red Alert Politics. The man has a lot of jobs. You are one working man there. Michael, good to see you, and thanks a lot for joining us today.
Happy to be here.
All right. Well, despite Republicans calling the White House in disarray, the president says it is running smoothly. How do his first days in office compare to other previous administrations?
Well-oiled machine, baby. Well-oiled. You know, it's like when my wife has asked me, "Do you sure you know where we're going?" Oh, honey, I know exactly. Trust me. I think I recognize this. This is what's interesting to me. A lot of the people who voted for Donald Trump want some chaos. They look at what's happened the last 15 years, where you've had incomes for the middle class flat and falling, where you've had disarray in the Middle East foreign policy. You don't see a path forward. They don't trust the institutions, including the media, the government, Congress, et cetera. And so I think the line is between chaos and competence. And if you can show that in the heart of this chaotic storm that you are executing plans, I think that's why this executive order story is so important. If the Trump team had rolled out that order and they had set up this extreme vetting order, and whether you hate the policy or love it, if they'd shown, look, we're going to do this policy in a reasonable way, I think that would serve them well. But the fact that they messed up the basics, these things are starting to, I think, to weigh on people. We do a podcast every day, the first 100 days. We had a great conversation on Friday with some a Trump person talking about how they feel after the first month. And they said, look, we know he's kind of dumping on everything. We wanted him to dump on everything, but he's got to get stuff done.
All right, that is a good point that you make. Michael, Robert Harward turned down the president's offer to take over as national security advisor. General David Petraeus is out of the running, and it seems the president is focused on the men on the list, who are mostly military types. What do you make of the caliber of people being considered now for the job?
Well, I think we talk about General Kellogg, Ray Ordinaro, I know, was on that list at one point. I mean, you can't dispute their caliber. General McMaster, another good example. Interestingly, the military guys are all people who served under President Obama. They are not the change agent style leaders that people elected Trump for. The biggest change agent is, in fact, the civilian guy, former UN Ambassador John Bolton. Now, in full disclosure, he's done some events for us at the Weekly Standard, our Broadmoor events. I've been panels with him. But I'm a huge fan. And he's a 1-2 punch for Trump, because he absolutely follows in the Flynn model of confront and name your enemies. He's not shy, retiring wallflower. On the other hand, he has a lot of fans in the traditional conservative base, people who look at the last 8 years of Obama's policies, not over politics or personality, but they just think this withdrawal from the world, leaving Iraq, Syria, and Ukraine to the worst elements was a mistake. I think Ambassador Bolton would be a 1-2. It would be a win for the kind of we love Trump team, the grassroots, and it would be a win among the Republican establishment to a degree as well.
Michael, the controversy over General Flynn and Russia's alleged influence is not wavering, not going anywhere. How much of an impact will a congressional investigation have in clouding the administration's goals?
Well, this story has been so interestingly conflated. I want to break into two pieces. One is, what did Mike Flynn do before he took the job when he was talking to his counterpart, the Russian ambassador? If he was there negotiating deals and don't worry, we'll knock these deals out, then that's a problem. But there is no evidence, not even in these leaked anonymous source stories, is anyone saying that they have any evidence that Mike Flynn did something actually wrong. And in addition to that, the reporting has been very clear that the FBI is, as of the latest reports, not looking at him as part of the second bigger problem, which is, was there coordination between Team Trump during the campaign and the Russians to influence the election? And it doesn't matter that the influence hit the Democratic National Committee. It doesn't matter if maybe the DNC didn't have as good internet security as the Republicans. If the Russians were involved in our election, if they're messing with our election, they need to be punished for it. And if anyone on Team Trump was involved in that, that's a major problem. And if the investigation from Congress breaks those two apart, I think it'll be easier for the American people to focus on the real problem. Right now, it's just a mishmash mess.
Right, as we mentioned on Saturday, President Trump held a campaign-style rally there in Melbourne, Florida. He addressed his supporters, but as president, does he not have an obligation to try to address those who did not support him? You look at all the protests that's going on, not just in our country, but across the entire world. There is clearly a division here in the U.S.
Yes, there is. And I want to throw down a shamelessly partisan card here because I was actually involved in the Tea Party movement earlier on. I wrote a book called That's No Angry Mob, That's My Mom. And the way the Tea Parties were treated by the Obama administration, the way that the Democrats use words like terrorists and radicals to describe these people who are showing up to complain about, national debt and, health care reform, that left a lingering taste in the mouths of a lot of Trump supporters. And that's why I think that you're not seeing a lot of blowback. Right now, he's meeting a need. I agree with you. Over the long term, you've got to be the president of everybody. I agree. We do not need more division. But if people are wondering why the crowd seemed to be eating this up, I would simply refer to the past 8 years. I would like to see Donald Trump become the bigger man, help us move on, but I certainly understand the emotional note that he's striking.
All right, looking ahead, the president is expected to push ahead with a new executive immigration order that he defended his initial ban yesterday. And let's go ahead and play that sound for you and then get your thoughts on the other side.
The president has the right to keep people out if he feels it's not in the best interest of our country, right? Unbelievable. Unbelievable. And I listen to these judges talk and talk and talk. So unfair. So we'll be doing something over the next couple of days. We don't give up. We never give up. We had a court that I disagree with. I disagree with Big League. And by the way, whether you read it or whether you watch it on television, when other lawyers come on, many of them can't even understand. They're saying, how do you come up with that decision? It cannot be more simple.
All right, Michael, the president has famously said, see you in court, but it seems that won't happen.
And if he stays out of court, it's a smart move, in my opinion, for him. Look, whining about the courts, complaining about judges, politicians do that for forever. But once again, back to execution. There's a way to execute things he wants to do that send a message to America. We're not going to pretend that there's not a problem in a certain region in the world. We're not going to pretend that someone coming here from Norway or from Brazil is the same as someone coming from the jihad-friendly countries in the Middle East. He can do that in a smart way. But complaining, whining, there's a shelf life for that, and I think he's getting near that end date.
All right, Michael Graham in Washington, it has been a pleasure speaking with you. Thanks for joining us.
Always happy to be here.